Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into a truly fascinating and, well, for some, deeply concerning discussion. It's all extracted from a compelling source titled Blasphemy and Excommunication, a call to Philippine bishops.
Yeah.
And this deep dive is really focused on quite a passionate plea for action within the Catholic Church there, prompted by a specific situation.
Yeah, our source centers on this figure named Amadeus. A Catholic is art and performances supporting what the source calls the bowrain community. Well, they're described as blasphemous and causing further damage to the church. What really jumps out, I think, is the writer's frustration. They feel the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, the CBCP, has only offered like verbal condemnation, but no real disciplinary action. And they're specifically talking about excommunication.
Right, and what's really insightful here is how the source poses its core question. Why this perceived inaction? To really make the point, it draws this direct, quite stark comparison to a case in Mallorca, Spain. Remember that?
I do, yeah. Where a bishop acted very swiftly. Excommunicated a drag artist for a blasphemous video, also supporting the bowrain community, as the source puts it. And the source really highlights that the Spanish case was described as just a one-time offense. Yet, it triggered immediate, decisive action from the church there.
That Mallorca comparison is striking, isn't it? Because it shows such a different response to what the source sees as, well, a similar kind of issue. Does the source get into why the bishops in the Philippines might seem to be acting differently, or why they perceive it as different? What makes the Philippine situation, in their view, far worse than that one-time offense in Spain?
Oh, absolutely. The source definitely elaborates on that. It argues the perceived severity in the Philippines comes down to two main things. First, a stated lack of repentance from Amadeus.
Okay.
And second, the likelihood, as the source sees it anyway, of more blasphemous performances down the line. So this contrast really highlights the writer's frustration, you know? It implies that a more persistent, unrepentant stance needs a stronger response than just a single incident.
Right, like it's an ongoing issue versus a one-off.
Exactly. It's presented as a clear call for a sort of consistent application of church rules across different places.
So the source isn't just venting frustration. It's actually pointing to the rule book, saying, here's why action is justified. What specific rules, what provisions from the Code of Canon Law, the church's legal system, essentially does it bring up?
Precisely. It gets quite specific. It cites two key canons. First, Canon 1368, which isn't just about, simple blasphemy. It's broader. It deals with people who gravely harm public morals or religion.
Okay, public morals, that's broad.
It is. And the source uses this to argue Amadeus's actions have had this wider negative effect.
All right.
Then second, it points to Canon 1369, which is about the profaning of a sacred object. So more specific again.
Right.
And citing these really underscores the source's view on how serious the alleged offenses are, and that there are formal grounds within the church's own system for acting. The big worry from this perspective is that without action, more souls, especially young Filipino teens, may be led astray.
That concern about leading souls astray, it brings us to something crucial about excommunication itself. I mean, it sounds incredibly severe, right? Final, almost.
Yeah.
But our source frames it differently. How does it present it? Not just as punishment, but maybe something else.
Yeah, that's a key point the source makes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it strongly emphasizes that excommunication, despite how harsh it sounds, is framed as a medicinal penalty.
Medicinal, like medicine.
Exactly. The stated purpose isn't just condemnation, not final damnation. It's presented as an act of charity, believe it or not. It's aimed squarely at encouraging repentance and conversion for the individual involved. But it also has another purpose: protecting the rest of the faithful from scandal and confusion that might come from these perceived violations.
Oh. So it's twofold: healing for the individual, protection for the community.
That's how the source presents it, as a necessary step, maybe harsh, but ultimately aimed at healing both the person and the wider church body.
So, wrapping this up for you, our listener, what does this all mean? Our deep dive shows this really passionate argument for decisive church action. It's rooted in specific readings of canon law and this deep concern for, well, the spiritual well-being of the community. And it really highlights that tension institutions face, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Balancing the need for discipline, protecting doctrine.
Against that stated aim of healing and guiding individuals back towards repentance. And for you listening, it brings up a fascinating point to think about. How do different interpretations of the same religious law and different views on how serious an offense is lead to such varied responses, even within the same global church? What does this specific source tell us about that ongoing friction, for some at least, between artistic expression and religious boundaries? And those profound questions that come up when people believe those boundaries have been crossed.